finally solved it. I have found the one question that's helped me to declutter those pieces over and over again. I keep tiptoeing around, and yet I know I need to let them go. And that one question is, what is your point? And I got this all from an Instagram mom. It had nothing to do with decluttering, but she was talking about how her daughter had taken a very generic water bottle into school, and a bully had come up to her and started making fun of her because she didn't have a real Stanley. And the girl obviously came home, told her mom, and was pretty upset about it. And the mom came up with what I think is the best comeback, especially at school. And that was to ask them, what's your point? What is your point? I don't have a Stanley. So what? What's your point? And she talked about how 9 times out of 10, bullies don't know what their point is. They just think maybe it's uncool, but they never have anything real to back them up on why they're being mean to you. And so where on one hand, that has nothing to do with decluttering, I have been experimenting with this idea of what is the point this month. And I will say it's helped me to confront a lot of that clutter that I've been hanging on to for years and finally feeling like I'm comfortable letting it go. In order to best start using this idea of what is your point, you need to name your brain. She needs to have a personality. She needs to be seen, this other voice in your head. And so I've named her Susan, and that has helped me to separate my logical brain that can make sense of why I don't need things and my what if there's a disaster brain that's often Susan telling me to be afraid of the future. Usually we are our worst enemy, aren't we? Especially when we are decluttering our home. We can make every excuse in the book why I should be keeping all of these things, and yet I know at the end of the day, I haven't used them in forever. But it's so hard to get rid of them until you start asking yourself, what is the point? Why am I still hanging on to this? It's making me miserable. Do you have any substance behind what your point is in keeping this item? That's when I found that I could finally be very honest about why I was keeping so many things that I wasn't using. My voice often is telling me that there could be one day a worst case scenario when I might need this item. And that voice for most of my adult life always won. It always told me that I should keep things because they were expensive. I should keep them because what if a disaster happens? I should keep them because if I lose something, then I'll have a backup. All of these excuses that I made for so long felt valid until I realized about 6 years ago that I was living in extreme anxiety and overwhelm just because my stuff. That was it. That was the whole reason that I was so stressed out, was things that I had bought myself, spent my money on, and those things were making me miserable. So today, let's use this idea of what is your point and talking to our brain named Susan, and let's try it in 3 different areas around our house and experiment with if this idea of what is your point could actually work for you. Let's start with where a lot of us probably have the most anxiety, overwhelmed, or everything in between, and that's our closets, our clothes. Clothing is where I started my decluttering journey many, many years ago, but it's also where I've made trillion mistakes, and it's taken me a lot longer to declutter my clothes because I was not asking that all-important question to Susan, what is your point, honey? Like, what's the point in keeping this? Clothes that are too tight or uncomfortable, are scratchy, are stretched out, don't have a neckline I like, or are super awkward on me. What is the point, honey? Why are we keeping this, friend? That's what I should have been asking myself for so many years. And guess what? It wouldn't have taken me 4 or 5 years to declutter my closet if I had been able to be completely honest with myself about what the point was I was keeping all of these things. At least at the end of the day, if you can ask yourself that question about the clothes that you are keeping and you have a reasonable point in why you are keeping them, then you can walk away feeling confident in your answer. But for so many years, I would keep things that were stretched out, keep things like my old rain jacket that actually was terrible in the rain because I'd still get wet anyway. And yet it was expensive, and yet it was name brand. And so it felt so awful getting rid of it. And it took me years to get rid of it. I didn't understand why it took me so long and why it was so uncomfortable. But really it was because I hadn't acknowledged Susan and talked to her as a friend and said, honey, what's the point? Why am I keeping something that obviously never works when it's raining outside? And then I would have been able to acknowledge it was because those answers that didn't really make sense, like it was expensive or was name brand, that I kept hanging on to it. And those really, at the end of the day, if you want to have a simpler wardrobe, are not going to be good enough answers for us. If we want to simplify, if we want to be able to walk out the door every day and feel pretty good in what we're wearing and not try 17 outfits on before we walk out the door, then we have to start acknowledging that the excuses that we make are just that. They're excuses, and it's okay. But if we live in excuses, you will not move forward. So in your closet, as you're going through your clothes this week, I want you to look at, try on these clothing pieces if you need to, and ask Susan, or whatever you want to call her, what is my point here, honey? What is the point? And become a friend with your brain, with your other person in your head that's talking to you. And that way, you guys can make a decision that makes sense for both of you. And even this week, I was listening to my brain, Susan, and she said, well, it still fits. You could keep it, you could wear it. But I didn't like it. And so why should I keep it? Because I didn't like it. And so I was able to ask Susan, honey, what's your point? It doesn't look good on me. I don't really like it. Even though it fits, I don't really like it. I never reach for it. It hasn't been washed in months because it never comes out of the closet. And then Susan and I came to an agreement that yes, it was time to let that item go. All right, so let's move on to the next area where I want you to try asking your brain, what is the point? As we go through our bathrooms, let's have some really honest conversations with our brain, Susan, and ask her some of those harder questions like, when's the last time that I remember using this item, Susan? And she probably will hit you back with a really good answer. Like, you used this hairspray when you went to that one wedding 2 years ago, remember? And then you'll go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I remember that. That's where I want you to stop, because we're going to realize now that that is just called hedonic adaptation. It's when our brains get used to what we already have, and so therefore it doesn't feel beautiful and shiny anymore, and we look for that next dopamine hit. The level of comfort always goes up. We want more, we need more, we see other people have things that we don't have, and so we're constantly on this treadmill of chasing things. And that is what our brains are used to doing. And so changing that is extremely weird.
Come into my weird house. Hi, I'm Weird Barbie. I am in the splits. I have a funky haircut and I smell like basement. Oh my God, I had a weird Barbie. Yeah, you did.
And uncomfortable, but it's the only way that I learned to overcome my tendencies to shop in order to be happy. Stepping off that treadmill is the only thing that I realized helped me to be more comfortable with what I already have and not feel the need to constantly be chasing the next best thing. So in our bathrooms, as we're looking through our hair products, I want you to go through your lotions, your foundations, your makeup. Ask your brain constantly, honey, what's the point in keeping all of these things? Is it making me happier to go in my bathroom? Is it making it easier to clean my bathroom? Do I really have what I enjoy using? Or am I keeping all of these things and still searching for the next best thing at the same time? So somebody who constantly looked for new hair products, I was always stuck on looking for the next best thing. And if you've ever been like that with makeup or hair products, then you know it's a really difficult treadmill to get off of. But what the studies show is that when we slow our buying process down, take a week off of buying things, take a month off, then we actually learn to appreciate what we have more. And when it comes to makeup and hair products, a lot of times it comes down to you need to keep using those products so you can start reaping the benefits. And many of us won't take the time to do that because we want that instant fix, right? So as you're pulling out all those things today in your bathroom, I want you to go back to keep asking, Susan, what is the point? Why am I keeping this? Is it really making me happy? If it's not adding to the ease of my day or making me more productive, then Susan, I just don't think you have a good point in wanting to keep this. So we can use this idea in all the areas of our home, asking ourselves, what is the point? But the last area, friends, that I wanted to talk to you guys today is our sentimental items. But before we do, if you are enjoying this, then please join the family here of Minimal Ease by subscribing. And of course, if you're decluttering with us, then throw a heart emoji down below because it really just makes my day knowing that I am not alone. But when it comes to sentimental items, it can be really overwhelming to get rid of things no matter where you are on that spectrum of life. But what I found to be really helpful when it comes back to asking yourself what's the point is that it helps you to step back from all of the emotional struggle, strife that we might be feeling when we come across these items and we don't know what to do with them. I lost my grandfather several years ago, but I was very close to him. And my grandma gave me a handful of things, and I have really appreciated them. But a few things that I've gotten rid of over the years are the book that he gave me and a pair of keys that I didn't like as much as the other ones. And where it was really hard to declutter these things in that moment, the idea comes back to what was the point in me keeping them? They weren't ones that I had great memories using or enjoying, and they weren't things that I wanted to keep out in display. So they were hidden away in my attic upstairs. What was the point in that? What was the point in me keeping those things? Because I wasn't going to be using them in my future. And so they were really just taking up a lot of space in my home. As we are bringing out all of our sentimental items and we go through them, I try to go through my sentimental items about 2 to 3 times a year just to make sure I'm not keeping too many things, especially my daughter's stuff. And what I've realized time and time again is that the things that are sentimental that really mean a lot to me, I keep them out. And the things that I don't keep out, it is very enlightening when you start to ask that question of what's the point? If I'm still enjoying it, then that's fine. If I get value from it, then it's fine to keep these sentimental items. But if they're going to rack and ruin, being kept in your attic, being kept in an old box, then really what is your point in keeping them? There are so many ways that we can hang on to the memories without hanging on to the items, whether it's writing down the story, the memory in your notebook, or taking a picture of it. Even printing out the picture of the object could help you save a lot of that valuable space in your home. And where decluttering sentimental items feels very overwhelming and scary sometimes because they're not usually things that we can get back. It has been for me extremely freeing when I got rid of that item that didn't really have that much value to me because I wasn't using it or enjoying it, and realizing then that I could get rid of a lot more. At the end of the day, I don't continue to think about these items over and over again. I don't perseverate on getting rid of them. I don't go look for them and I'm upset. It's amazing when you start to get rid of these items that you never think you could ever get rid of. And when they're gone, at least 9.5 times out of 10 for me, I've never regretted it. And as you're on your decluttering journey, I just want to remind you that when you continue to ask yourself, what's the point? Hopefully you'll realize, like I did, that the point is to live a bigger life. The point is to have what you really enjoy and not be struggling with all these excess things that you really don't, that aren't helping you on your day-to-day life, that aren't allowing you to chase your dreams, that are holding you back in so many different ways. You don't realize until you let it go that there really wasn't a point to you keeping all of these things when you realize what the greater good really could be for your life. So I hope you've enjoyed this little journey with me on asking what is the point. And if you want to learn a little bit more, then please click on one of these videos right here. And I wish you guys all the very best.